And I see now kids that are just congratulated and trophied and praised to no end for every little thing they do. I don't know. I'm not a parent.
Mhm.
So I can't necessarily speak on that. I can only speak as an observer and a non-parent. I don't know if every time you tie your shoes, you should get to, be rewarded and praised and
It's true.
paraded up and down the street as how fabulous you are. I don't know. Then again, I hate to see kids neglected and not be get some encouragement, but there's got to be some point where it makes sense.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have to say, I am very excited for our next guest. He's a hero of mine, and he is just awesome. So let me introduce the one and only, the greatest bass player on earth, Billy Sheehan.
Well, it's pretty tough to live up to that, so I better get practicing.
Well, we're going to get to know him and get some encouraging words from him. And so before we get this conversation started, Billy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been playing bass for 50, maybe 54, 55 years, half a century. So that's good. That's a lot of experience. And I started out, in a copy band in Buffalo, New York, which eventually we play around and then added an original and then two and then 50-50, then 75-25, and started doing records. And just never really had as a goal fame or fortune. I just wanted to play. I love to play. I got up this morning and played for about 2 hours, just sitting here looking out the window of my hotel. And it's a great joy to me. It's a great therapy. I always some guys write to me, I used to play when I was younger. I gave it up, and I said, we go back to it. It's the best thing ever. It really is a great thing to play music. I believe what you need to do intellectually and emotionally and physically really come together when you're playing a musical instrument. So I went on and got in a bunch of bands over the years, and I'm very grateful to have a little success here and there. I had a couple of hit records, and almost more importantly, traveled the world and got to see everywhere. Having a hit record is a fantastic passport. You go everywhere, to India and all over the Southeast Asia. Haven't been to Africa yet or Antarctica. Those are the two continents I haven't hit yet, but hope to at some point. And I have a lot of friends all over the world as a result. It's pretty cool. Play with some amazing people, amazing in their musicianship and just amazing personalities as well. I got a great bunch of people I've worked with over the years, and I'm pretty lucky to be standing upright still, though seated down, and still playing. New Winery Dogs record is coming out. A new Talas record, the band I kind of grew up in. That record just came out, and it's doing great. I'm overwhelmed with the success of it. And Mr. Big hasn't done much, but we're talking about maybe trying to do something in the future. So a lot of things bubbling on the stove.
I heard that. I think probably my favorite combination is you and Steve Vai. I mean, both of you are
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a ride. We first met before Eat 'em and Smile thing, a little bit. We had a phone conversation. We were both on the same label. Talas and Steve Vai we're on the same label. So we got together in the Eat 'em and Smile band, we stayed in very close touch after that. All of us did. Myself, Greg Bissonette, Steve, our keyboard player Brett, and so I forgot the circumstances, but out of nowhere, he just called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing this summer?" I go, "Nothing. What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm doing a tour. Want to join me?" I go, "Sure." So it was myself, Virgil Donati on drums, Dave Weiner on rhythm guitar. Oh no, yeah, it was Dave. And who's the keyboard player he used to play with Frank Zappa?
Oh my God. Well, there's been a few, but
I forgot his name.
oh my God, I can't think of it at the moment. I'll think of it at 2:00 in the morning though.
Yeah, it was amazing, genius player. So we did a tour with that. Then it continued on. We did another one and another one, and I played on it as a Real Illusions record. That was the name of it, right? Real Illusions.
Oh man, now you got me on the spot.
Anyway,
I got
only because I can't remember either. So, but anyway, I played on that record. We did a live at the Astoria that we spoke about, and just had a wonderful time. I just he had a Steve the Vi Academy that he does. I think maybe once a year. Really great event if you're a guitarist or a musician or just enjoy music and enlightenment. It's a great event. So I joined him for that. We got up and played a few songs together. And for sound check, we had to go over Shy Boy to make sure we remembered the part. And somebody just had their iPhone up and posted it, and like no time it was like 300,000 views. And so I'm glad a lot of people enjoy what Steve and I have done. He's an incredibly wonderful guy, like a brother to me, and his wife and kids are just wonderful people and near and dear to us. So and musically too, he's just so great. Really has been inspirational and just really down to earth, wonderful guy for real too. So that's an important aspect.
Well, recently I'd gotten an album from Jeff Berlin. That's Jack songs.
Yeah.
And you were on that album. Which songs did you play from Jack Bruce?
I forgot. Sorry. It's been, and I'm sorry that is a situation. It's been during the pandemic. I recorded so many things. Was very lucky to have clients from all over the world contact me to play on their records. So I ended up doing about 600 tracks, about 5 or 6 records. Wow. So it's hard to remember. I apologize, but I'm on there. And well, it's great to be on there with Jeff, to do anything with Jeff. He's such a wonderful guy and a great player. Yeah. But I think Ron Carter's on the record too. So yeah. Somehow I managed to get on the same record as Ron Carter. So I'll put a little star on my hat for that. Quite a legendary, amazing guy. And I don't know who the harp player is that he has on the record. But man, I gotta find this guy. He plays so great. But yeah, we did. Jack Bruce is a big influence to me. All the early greats, because I'm as old as I am. I got to experience them, not live necessarily, but when it was the first to get their record and all that. Paul Samuel Smith from the Yardbirds, my first guy, and then Tim Bogart from Vanilla Fudge, unbelievable. And then of course Jack Bruce, John, that was so, and the list goes on. Jack Bruce in his Wheels of Fire, Cream, the live Cream, that was an amazing record, and it was guitar and bass interacting. Instead of the guitar player saying, "Okay, bass, you hold an E note while I solo," and unfortunately, that's what we got a lot of these days. We just they want. solo, 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 solo. I'll just hold this note here while you solo, because you can't play over changes. So if I move, you're going to get thrown off. So I'll just hold my E. Jack was just so great that he could move and weave in and out of what Eric Clapton was doing,
Yeah.
and make it sound like an ensemble as opposed to a background for a soloist only, which is great too. I love. As a matter of fact, we were just talking about Steve. When I play with Steve, if I gotta hold an E, that's what I do. It's his gig, and I want him to be pleased. So that's what I got to do. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I love doing that. But I listened to a lot of classical music when I was younger, and one particular piece that I had was the Well-Tempered Clavier, and it was on vinyl, a box set, 3 records per box, 7 boxes, 21 records, 42 sides of one guy playing a harpsichord. That was it. So I listened to that and loved it and learned so many pieces from it. But I learned that the left hand. I'm looking in the reverse camera here. The left hand plays the bass and sometimes chords, while the right hand does moving, and that's not an absolute parallel, but it's related to guitar player and bass player. Bass player playing bass notes or a substance and foundation for what the right hand is doing. The right hand has more facility, so it's generally doing the more complicated things, not always the case. And the left hand is kind of moving around so that whatever the right hand is doing sounds more. That ensemble playing back and forth. So that's why in a lot of bands, I've been lucky to play with guitarists that like that as well. So I'm moving while they're moving, and it turns into 2 parts turn into 3, and that's a very interesting thing about the Well-Tempered Clavier. To play a melody line, play a thing over it, suddenly you got the harmony of the 2, and you've got 3 things happening, or even more. So that was an important thing for me early on to get to a point where there's interaction between guitar and bass, very much like how I started this with Jack Bruce and Eric Clapton did on Wheels of Fire, and Paul Samuel Smith before that with Jeff Beck. They would call and response back and forth. Paul Samuel Smith would play a line, and Jeff would answer, and he'd play. And I thought that was really cool. And it's an old form of music, and a really cool thing. So Jack Bruce is one of the first guys to do that for me. So playing on that record was important. I met Jack. We were both on the cover of Guitar World magazine years ago, and I had to meet him in New York for the photo shoot, and we hung out all day. And it's amazing. So most guys from that generation, their time track is almost parallel with everyone else. You know, they played in clubs and bars or copy bands, then eventually blah blah blah, they made it. And we just had a riot talking about our old days and telling stories, and what a wonderful guy. So I'm very, very pleased that Jeff Berlin was adventurous enough to do this record, invite some incredible talent and personnel along with him. And I'm very, very honored to have been included.
Yeah, there was a long list of some great players on that album.
Yeah.
And the musicianship. I mean, bass is pretty distinct, but there was songs on there that you couldn't tell that it was a bass on some of the solos. It sounded like just a regular guitar. And I was stupefied by some of the sounds that came from that album.
It's pretty cool. And the gentleman who was singing too, I forgot his name, but he has quite a great voice. And that was a wonderful project. Like I said, I've been doing so many recordings at home. I got a wonderful engineer that I hired in Nashville, Scott Bush. And we've had such a broad spectrum of styles, not only that record, but everything from electronic dance music, pop, straight up rock, folk, singer, songwriter, a couple things that are a little country. I'm not a country guy. I know I'm in Nashville, but this will never be a cowboy hat. but some things were definitely a little country, some death metal and super heavy metal and things like that too. So it was quite an education because you have to prep yourself for a whole different style, song to song sometimes. And we had a blast recording. And sometimes we get songs that were all set up, ready to go, just hit record. And other times we had to move things and figure things out and figure out what the speed was and find a spot where the drummer is locked in. And it was difficult. So I learned early on when people would write to me and say, hey, can you play on a song? I said, well, I got to hear it first before I say yes. Because sometimes we get them and, oh man, how are we going to make heads or tails out of this? It's not, because these are not professional musicians. Many were, and many had it very together, but some didn't at all. And so we did our best. We always did our best for all of our clients, and it was an amazing thing to see when you get a raw track without bass. And I'm not referring to me or my bass playing, just bass in general, and put proper bass on there. Wow, it's a whole different world. We'd hear a song and think, I don't know. And we'd get in there and get the proper bass done right. And wow, there it is. So it really underlined the importance of this instrument in an ensemble. Not unlike the drums, not unlike all the melodic chordal instruments and the vocal, but having the proper bass line in a song really does push it over the top. So we were glad to experience a couple situations like that.
What else I liked about Jeff on that album is he didn't play a fretless, but it sounded like a fretless.
Yeah, I had we did a cover of Wild World and Mr. Big, and on our third record. And a very, very famous and very accomplished fretless player called me and said, man, so great to hear you play fretless. I go, it's not fretless, but there's a way you can, bend things to make them sound kind of fretless. And so I took that as a little a moment of a very small badge of honor that he enjoyed that and thought it was fretless.
It wasn't Tony Franklin, was it?
No, but he's a dear friend of mine too.
Yeah. I also have been seeing some pictures of you on LinkedIn with Rudy Sarzo.
Rudy's what a wonderful guy. Great player. I remember Talas opened up for Quiet Riot at L'Amour's in Brooklyn back in about '84. I think one of their first tours. And I saw Rudy the first time there. And we've got a chance to hang out. We recently did a rock and roll fantasy camp. We had a great time together. And a great player, wonderful guy. It's funny. There's a strata of people that, career-wise you get up to. I think nature weeds out a lot of the bad folks. They don't, or they have their spot. And so, the way you treat people and the way you are with people is of supreme importance, because you're going to be in a tour bus with somebody for 6 months or flying every single day or being in the same hotels and being up on stage and backstage all day, every day. You got to be able to get along with people and be cool. And so many people that I know at this point in my life, they're just great. Rudy's just a wonderful guy. And I love him completely.
Yeah, I had him on the show and his story is just incredible. Yeah, his family coming here from Cuba and
amazing
everything they went through, and just an awesome guy.
Really is.
Speaking of hurdles, what's been the biggest hurdles in your life?
Well, most of them are internal, and the fact that I'm trying to get these to work on this. And so it's not a struggle in a negative way, but it's always, I'm always climbing some mountain of varying heights, varying depth of snow at the peak, varying angle of ascent. So I'm always working on something new or recovering things that I've forgotten, which is a lot, or rehabilitating my things that I once had. So, but in the early days, it was quite a struggle to, though we didn't realize it at the time. It's like when kids grow up poor, you don't know you're poor. You Never even thought about it. I mean, we were from generally lower middle class, and there was a couple of times when there wasn't much food or of high quality, but we didn't know any better. Wow, macaroni and cheese, woohoo! This is great. Fantastic. Velveeta, that's my favorite. But so struggles like that were when you're young, they kind of become transparent. But then playing in clubs and doing gigs with an attempt to get somewhere career-wise. Eventually, that attempt came along. Initially, we just did it because we wanted to play. And I remember just run 83, 84. We were really hitting it hard. We played a 2-hour show, hot and sweaty, get in the van, drive, maybe get a Motel 6 to take a shower, maybe grab a burger somewhere, get on stage again next night, go drive another 300 miles. And so we in a van, we hit it hard. Again, looking back, and it's not an uncommon thing for people to look back at the struggle at varying degrees, but it was great training. Because then later on, when it got cushy, and I, had a crew guy, and had a backstage and had catering and things like that. Having gone through it the other way, you really appreciate it, and on top of it, you can deal with any conditions you can imagine. Right. You can get up and do a show. So we played not too long ago, maybe 2013, 14. Mr. Big went to India, and wow. And they were all excited for us to come there. We didn't know. We got there. We had almost no internet access anywhere. So everyone's wife and our manager, and I hadn't heard from us for like 2 weeks. All of a sudden, we fly off, and they were like, "What the heck's going on over there?" And we got to and the people were just amazing. We loved them so much, and the audiences were just incredible. Would bring tears to your eyes. It's just so beautiful. But the conditions were a little rough. And so we laughed our way through it, but we came out of that with some amazing stories of what we went through to get shows done. But in the end, it all worked out great, and it was an amazing memory. Made a lot more new friends too, so it was a beautiful thing. But so struggles, other than my own personal, I've been lucky to not fall into too many pits. I've never been a drug guy. I smoked dope a couple times in high school, a few other little things. But in 1971, I heard a tape of us playing after we had smoked some dope. And while we're on stage in Erie, Pennsylvania, I remember, we're looking at it like, thank God we brought a tape in there. I'm so glad we're documenting this. We're killing it. This is amazing. And so we get up the next morning. Hey, what was that? It was just awful.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe I should rethink this. So since 71, I haven't even had an aspirin. I have nothing at all. I enjoy some wine and beer, maybe a little nice bourbon or something, but no drugs at all. So, and every band I've been in, I've only like maybe half of one or two times had a problem with anybody doing anything that was affecting the band. I think since 1985, when I left Buffalo, that has never been an issue anywhere. Because at a certain point, when you're a professional, you really can't. Some people can do it and get away with it. I don't know if that's good for them that you can do it and get away with it, because eventually it may catch up to you. God bless them. I hope they're okay. But when you're up in a auditorium doing a 2-hour show where you got to hit your mark and sing on key, and you got to have it very together to do that for the most part. So since then, since 1971, I haven't even had an aspirin, and I think that's helped me a lot. I can't imagine what my life would have been if I would have made a left turn at that point. We probably would not be here talking right now. I don't know where I would be, installing carpeting somewhere. So.
You hear too many stories of these guys that they've either died or they had to go to rehab and get their lives back together again. I had JJ French on the show, and it was so refreshing to hear somebody say, yeah, I stayed away from all that stuff. In fact, we all stayed away from it in the band, and we wouldn't put up with it.
The first concert I went to was Jimi Hendrix, and in '68, and he died. And
Yeah.
so did Janice, and so did Jim Morrison, and that's why in the '90s, when a couple musicians started heroin overdosing again, I thought, wait a minute, didn't we learn? We lost Jimmy, we lost Janice, we lost Jim Morrison, we lost so many guys. Sadly, it's a lesson everybody has to learn within their own life, and I have nothing but compassion for people that get involved in that, because you just don't know what it's going to be like when you can't stop or just refuse to want to stop. And I often give an anti-drug message to people when I'm speaking and when I do my clinics and seminars and stuff like that.
That's
And
cool.
also make sure they know that if it is your choice, you're still my friend. We're good. We're cool. I have nothing against anybody's personal opinions about how they choose to live their life.
That's
I would
right.
be here if you needed me to try to help you, but in the meantime, but I will keep an eye on you to make sure you're okay.
Well, the thing is back when I was in junior high and high school, it was the cool thing to be a partier. That was the image we were getting from all of our favorite bands was, hey, this is go out and party and drink and get stoned and just have a wild time. Everything's awesome. And it was to fit in the beginning, and then it became a habit, and then
Yeah,
it just goes off the rails.
it was kind of an illusion too, because I often say the beginning of the decline of civilization in our time was when party became a verb.
Mm-hmm.
And to party, you used to go to a party or have a party, but then to party meant basically smoking dope or getting high, whatever. And people would see bands and see us up on stage and doing our thing. And they don't realize that I've been warming up all day, warming up my voice, running the stairs, and on stage, usually halfway through a show, maybe a little sooner, I'll have a beer on stage, just something to drink. But it's like I'm running a marathon, so I don't feel that alcohol at all. So I don't feel it, but yeah, it's the party thing is a myth, and I know a lot of bands used to on stage kind of make that their persona, if you will. Off stage, it ain't like that. It's all business.
Wow.
And it's fun and it's cool, and the party is a riot. I've had some great times hanging out, drinking some wine, and just playing in amazing bands, and we're touring all over the place, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's fantastic. It's what life is about. I don't want to live some stoic, straight, stiff existence. I want to have some fun. But the best way to have fun is when you've accomplished something. And once you accomplish something, then it's a real party. You really can have some amazing time. But to party for the sake of partying and live for the sake of partying, I don't know. It's that's your choice. Good luck, because we just see people who've gone down that road and not come back. So.
I almost didn't come back. Some years ago, when my father passed away. He had ended his life, and then my brother ended up hanging himself. I got really big into my drinking again, and then I started hitting the coke real bad. I got to the point where I had a heart attack.
Yeah.
I was the partying kept going on, and at about 36 is when I had my heart attack.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Yeah, sorry about your brother. I've been exposed to suicide way too many times. People very, very close to me, and that is a tough gig. There's nothing worse. I mean, because you spend the rest of your life what ifing yourself. What if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that, or whatever. It's a terrible, terrible thing. I'm sorry to hear. It's the first person that really affected me, having committed suicide, was an ex-girlfriend who I just kind of split up with, and she was having trouble in her life, and I thought I would never get over it. I remember saying to myself, I'm never going to get over this. This is just being crushed. I did, eventually you do, but yeah, that's another thing. Well, I don't talk about it regularly, but I'm lucky to have friends all over the world, and I get email and messages from everybody. And oftentimes somebody will write to me, and it's a really rewarding when someone writes and says, yeah, I was down or thinking of suicide, or I had a horrible illness, whatever, and I listened to some music, and I listened to your music, and it helped me come back. And I had dozens and dozens of letters like that. So I thought, that's my pay. That's my currency right there. I'm glad, I got a house and a car and a little money saved up. But my real pay, I open up an email and somebody who's considering checking out, and they change their mind because they listen to something that I played on. Wow, that's pretty amazing. So a lot of musicians, I try to encourage them to look at what they do and the importance of it, because when you put a record out, it really affects people, and sometimes you don't realize it. And it affects a lot more people than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Now we only sold 100,000 copies. 100,000 people out there listen to your record. Or we only sold 100 copies. Or two. There's two people out there listening to your record. And it's affecting them. And the way I remember as a kid getting a record, putting it on, unbelievable. How much we were talking earlier, Frank Zappa, Jimi Hendrix, all the bands I loved and everything. And they affected me, and it meant something to me. And Frank Zappa, his message about, plastic people and flower power sucks and discorporate corporate America. Great sentiments that stay with me to this day. And so we would see, I got a whole folder of people that sent me an email about some horrible situation in their life and how it was improved. So musicians, take note that even if it doesn't seem like you're making an impact, somewhere you probably are. I mean, I get from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from the Middle East, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Korea, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, all those places, from all over the place. And it's a universal thing. When you put out a record and people take to it, it really can help them get through a lot. And that's why I said earlier time about, I tell older guys, I don't play much anymore. I go, look at your bass. Come on, man. It's great therapy.
Yeah,
it really is a wonderful thing.
There's something about music, man. It changes you in so many ways. And when I was feeling down, if I found the right song, it kept me going.
It's so great. Yeah, sometimes my wife might be traveling. I'm home alone, and I get done with my whole day's work, and I'm done, finished. And it's just me and the cat. And I got an amazing iTunes collection. It's well over 2 terabytes, all curated to the letter, every song title and cover art on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of songs of every genre you could imagine. And I'll get a glass of wine, and the cat will sit there cleaning himself off, and I'll go listening to, and it's a one-man party. It's so great. Let's listen to now some great music and stuff that was important to me and affected me, and discovering a few new things here and there too, and then have a couple friends over and do the same thing. It's pretty amazing, pretty great stuff.
Well, we talked about your hurdles. What's your greatest fear?
I don't know if I have a greatest fear. I don't like heights or sharks, but or crocodiles or alligators. I can't imagine getting grabbed by because once they got you, it's over. And while they got your leg and they're spinning, all that can go through your mind is, well, that's the end of this. I'd almost like to get done quickly, but you're gonna have to sit there and watch him eat you. So that'd be a horrible way to go. But no, I have hope for the world now, but I do fear that there could be some situations that a lot of people get hurt. Sadly, I want to see peace and freedom, and people be able to enjoy their lives. And so I'm hoping that the caustic environment that we have now calms down, and people begin to understand each other and find common ground and things of that nature. So I do have a concern. I'm not worried. It's not the level of worry yet, but it's certainly a bit to concern about our current world situation. And I hope it settles out pretty soon. I'd like to see that.
As many times that you've been on stage, what was the moment that you just kind of stopped and said, I finally made it?
Never happened.
Never happened. Just still
No.
waiting for that day.
No. It's funny. I don't. Some people have commented towards me that know me that I don't. I'm kind of never really thinking of exact now or near now in the past. I'm always kind of looking a little ahead of now and more towards the future. But there have been some, nevertheless, amazing moments on stage that I certainly remember, and they affected me completely to my core. But I never looked at the idea of making it or success, or looked at it in a sense of pride at all. I remember I was reading about pride lately as to why it's the worst of the 7 deadly sins. It's kind of interesting, but so I never look at anything I've done or in that way. I'm glad and I'm thankful and grateful that people are at the show at all, or that bought any records at all, and that I got paid at one point or another enough to pay my bills and have a bottle of wine once in a while. So that's all good. But I rarely stop to look at what's going on. I concentrate on the next hill I have to climb. Similar with my playing, I'll get some things down and I'll do a thing, and maybe people might be kind enough to comment, "Oh yeah, you did things." I'm not even thinking about that anymore. I'm thinking about the thing that I can't do, that I'm working on figuring out, that I still don't have, or that I don't know about. And I'll see some other player doing this amazing thing, and I go, "Oh, okay, back to work." So it's a funny thing. I think I would advise others, not advice only, take it or leave it, to look more at what you're attempting to do than what you have done. But again, like I said, I'm very, very grateful. We were on the Tonight Show with Mr. Big. First time we were on, we just said, "Hello, thank you," and the curtain closed, and the show was over. And the next time we're there, and the woman comes back in the dressing room. She goes, "Hey," it was Jay Leno was the host. That Jay wants to talk to you guys. Who's going to sit in chair number 1? And I grew up with the Tonight Show, from Steve Allen as a precursor, and then Jack Parr, and then Johnny took over. And the first Tonight Show we were on, Johnny was still there, but Jay was hosting. So it was still all the old original Tonight Show stuff backstage. Wow. Then the next one, Jay had taken over. And so they said, "Jay wants you to sit on the couch. Who's going to sit in chair number 1?" Since was the kind of the spokesperson for the band, if you will. Everybody looked at me. So, okay. So I sat in chair number 1 on the Tonight Show, for kings and queens and presidents and Oscar winners and everything. So that was pretty amazing. That was pretty cool. So it was, the best thing about that was I'd call my mom and have a conversation and say, "Hey, Mom, our record's on Billboard charts." "Oh, that's nice." "Hey, Mom, our album went platinum." "That's good." "Mom, we got a number 1 single." "That's nice." "Mom, our video's number 1. That's good." "Mom, I'm going to be on Tonight Show." "What? You're going to be on Tonight Show?" her metric for success. Finally, I kept pressing those buttons. I finally found the right one, the Tonight Show. And she was over the moon about it. So I'm more happy about that than anything to do with my experience. So that's because your parents, looking at you, that's a different generation. They don't know MTV. Okay, I guess that's good. Or it was at one time, whatever happened to it, or having a record on the charts. So that might be a good thing. So she was pleased about that. I'm glad I got to have her experience that. She was very, very happy.
Was everyone in your life pretty encouraging about your music?
No, I didn't get much encouragement at all. It was all had to be self-generated, and I was self-taught. My big brother and my dad never once, ever said, "Hey, pretty good." Nothing, ever. Matter of fact, they didn't like it. and but they kept their mouth shut as far as that goes. I'm not always, and my my sisters were amenable to it. They were cool, but there wasn't really any. You're going to fight that battle on your own, pal. you're on your own. Good luck. I thought I didn't even get a good luck. I just, you're on your own. See ya. So I had to figure it out. And in a way, as much as I had to get it. I had to do it on my own, figure it out, make my own way, and fight my way onto the beach and up the hill. So in a way, that's good. I would have been nice to have some encouragement. Maybe it would have had the opposite effect, though. I don't know. So I was all alone in the end zone, and that ball's coming at me. You catch it or lose. So that was what I was faced with. So I got lucky.
Well, I know it can be deflating and motivating at the same time.
Exactly right. I agree.
When I wanted to go do something else in life, I had a steady job working for the city. I was in public works, basically guaranteed job and good benefits, the whole 9 yards. I got are you crazy? You got a good job. Look at all this you got with that job. And then I wanted to move away from Houston. I wanted to move up to Austin. Oh no, you don't want to do that. It sucks when your family and friends are trying to talk you out of doing something that could be beneficial to your life.
Yeah, I imagine it is. And I've seen every instance of it from both sides of the spectrum. And I see now kids that are just congratulated and trophied and praised to no end for every little thing they do. I don't know. I'm not a parent.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't necessarily speak on that. I can only speak as an observer and a non-parent. I don't know if every time you tie your shoes, you should get to, be rewarded and praised and paraded up and down the street as how fabulous you are. I don't know. Then again, I hate to see kids neglected and not get some encouragement. But there's got to be some point where it makes sense, in my humble opinion. I just think. And I grew up, we were on our own, our neighborhood kids. The screen door would slam, we'd be outside, and we'd be outside all day till the street lights went on. We went in and repeat the next day. And we were on our own, digging holes and making underground forts, making tree forts, catching frogs, catching snakes, catching worms to go fishing, eating a sandwich afterwards without washing your hands. And, so we're immune to anything you could imagine and all that stuff. And we look at it as the best way to grow up. I'm sure the next generation will look at the generation following them and go, nah, that's not how you do it. And just similar to music, your parents go, now this is music, and you play, and you go, no, this is music, and then your kids will probably do the same thing to you, and ridicule you for your music because they like theirs. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough thing, but I think letting people be on their own and make their own way while guiding them, I think is the answer. Recent friend of mine was making a business decision, and I knew it wasn't the right one. So but if I open my big fat mouth, I'm going to be on one side or the other. So I don't want to be on the side. So I just shut up, let it go, let them. And sure enough, they made the right decision. Similarly, I have friends that have smoked, and I just stinky to me. It's awful. I mean, people come in from outside. God. They used to play in bars. They get up the next morning to walk to the bank to deposit our stack of single $1 bills from our pay. And I would say, well, what the hell is that? Oh, smoke from last night. God, it's just awful, horrible. So friends of mine that smoke, I would just, I'd light their cigarette for them. You need an ashtray? Here, let me get it for you. I hate this, but I just, sure enough, they stopped. Just don't, it's kind of like a kung fu, push against it, it's going to push back at you. So let it go. Here you go. Here's your ashtray.
I will say this. My mother didn't say anything. She let me make the decision on my own. And
my mom was like that too.
Yeah.
That was a good thing.
So even though I could tell she wasn't crazy about the idea, she let me do what I wanted. It's just really I guess a slap in the face when you have a relative who's been all over the world and lived in all these different places to tell you not to go travel.
Exactly. Yeah, my mom let me do my thing. Hey, Mom, I'm at my friend Ray's house, and can I stay over tonight? Yeah, okay. We're good. She knew who they were, so. And as a result, I never really got in much trouble as a kid, uh, and didn't have get involved in anything that was that could have been dangerous or not good for me until I was much older. So I was lucky to have a mom that respected my decisions, was there to guide me if I needed it generally,
Yeah.
but still we're on our own. So it's good to make your way. So there you
And I'm sticking to it.
have it.
All the interviews that you've done, has there ever been anything that you wanted to talk about that you never got to?
No, I think I've been out of the kindness of my interviewers. They've given me a broad spectrum of choices to speak about, and I may people have been asking me about writing a book because I got some stories, and not only from the music. I mean, before that, catching frogs and snakes, and then growing up with dogs and minor birds and geese and all kinds of animals we did and what we went through as kids. So I guess at some point I have plenty of fodder for that situation there that I'll be able to talk about.
What's the craziest thing you ever did as a kid?
Oh man, there were so many things. Well, we used to do things that kids would never do today. Nobody had a helmet on a bicycle. What are you talking about? Fenders on a bicycle. We had bare tires, bare chain where the chain guard was off, and we get one guy get on the bicycle and go. And the very first beginning skateboards had metal wheels, and on a black asphalt street, they slipped and slided and bounced. And my first skateboard was actually extruded aluminum with metal wheels. So we'd get a clothesline and hang on to that while the bike would go as fast as he could. And we'd be on the skateboard going, and it wasn't smooth. So if you fell off, you were going to lose a lot of skin. And we would do that. And then we had a trestle near us, train bridge over another train bridge. The lower train ran behind the houses across the street. We walked down there, go to the trestle, and these big high hills, and they were very steep. So in the winter, they'd get covered with snow, and we slide down them. We would take a hood from a car, from a collision shop, drag it down, get 4 or 5 guys on the underside of the hood, flipped over. Now there's sharp metal and bolts and screws sticking out of the thing, tetanus and cholera, and God knows what else you would catch. We get on that thing, and we go down a hill that was about this much, and it's almost straight down. And we'd hit the bottom, we'd all fly off and break through the ice and into the swamp, water and mud, and no one was killed. And the trains, we had the trains going by all the time. So they'd be going slow because way up the line where we couldn't even see them, apparently they're going to stop. So we'd run alongside and grab and hop the train and ride on the train for a while. And again, nobody was killed. Nobody really no major injury either, amazingly. But we did and fireworks and firecrackers. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
God, we blew things up, and we had, this is a perfect youth. I mean, that's, when I do my book, I want to talk about that a lot, because we just I had big brothers and sisters, so their gang was different than our gang, so they were doing even more wilder stuff than we were, and we used them as an example and followed in their footsteps, and we just had it was a great time to be alive.
We used to put models together and then put those M80s in there and blow them up.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you can even buy an M80 anymore. I've looked for
Really?
them around 4th of July. No, they're clamped down on those. But if you go online, you can find the cardboard tubes and the wick. So you just had to find somebody brave enough to go to a store and get some high speed rifle powder to put in there. But I don't want to give anybody any ideas. Don't do it, kid. We had M80s and M190s too, which were twice the size, and that was the M80s were supposed to be a quarter stick of dynamite. That's what the rumor was. I'm not sure if it was quite a quarter stick of dynamite, but the M190s certainly were.
Oh, wow.
And those things would just tear. I mean, literally a hole this deep in the lawn and this big.
Oh, wow.
Giant, unbelievable explosions. Then we would put them in a can it's filled with gasoline, throw the M80 in there and run. And if you've seen Apocalypse Now, those giant that's how they did them. They took gasoline. It must be because it was the exact same thing. Big as a very big house, ball of flame, and a giant black mushroom cloud afterwards. Unbelievable. And nobody got killed.
It's a wonder, throwing darts at each other and dirt clods and China berries.
Oh, we had a riot.
Those were the days, man.
Sure was.
Well, yeah, I try to encourage my grandson to have fun like that, but not get caught.
Well, a dear friend of mine has 2 boys, and they're wonderful kids. And he was living in a great place, but it was house driveway. So he went out and bought a place in the country. And now the kids got a rope swing, and there's a swamp back there, and there's snakes to catch. And those kids are elated with this. So I think kids are kids. Have them go outside, and they'll find something to do, or something to catch, or something to start on fire, or build, or whatever. It's a good thing.
Yeah, the goal is once we're fully retired to have a place out in the country, away from any city life, and have a pond or a river or something next to the house, and just let the kids go wild.
Yeah, we're lucky in Nashville. We live in it's a regular old neighborhood, but each lot ours is deep woods. It's dark in our woods in the daytime, and it's way deep, way back there. And we've got snakes, box turtle. I got a king snake, a box turtle. We got chipmunk, squirrels, raccoons, possum, fox, bobcat, deer, lots of deer, and all kinds of birds. And it's really quite wonderful.
Wow.
Where I lived in LA was great, and I love LA, but we had to get out of there. I'm sad to see LA having a hard time. But so where we live now is really an ideal place, and we're very thankful for that.
That's why I moved away from Houston, because I lived literally in a town where Exxon was, and
Wow.
up here around Austin, it's all hills, and like you, I see all kinds of animals. I'm 10 minutes from the river, go put my feet in the water.
Is there fish?
Oh, there's fish. Yes.
What do you got there?
Oh God, I know there's catfish up here, and man, I can't remember what else is in that water. I have not gone fishing since I've been up here.
Come on. Yeah,
I need to.
I went through a fishing phase where it was everything to me, and now in Buffalo, where Lake Erie goes into the Niagara River to go to the falls, that's the #1 smallmouth fishery in the world now.
Wow.
We used to catch a lot of smallmouth bass there. So we had fishing stories. It's a whole other chapter, and a thick one.
Is that your favorite thing to do outside of music? Go fishing?
It used to be, but I haven't had time for it. I'm trying to revitalize it, but my main thing always is music. It's hard to get away from it because I love it so much, and there's so much more to do. So there are certainly other interests. I don't want to have a one-dimensional life, but it really still is fascinating, exciting. I'm gonna be in my car or on the freeway and think, "Oh, I got an idea! I got to get home and get to my base and try this," And like I said, get up every day and go for hours. And it's really I lucked out when I made a choice to get involved in this. That it was really the right decision for me, and that it's not halfway through life or 3/4 of the way through life, whatever it might be. I don't have to rethink it. I'm very lucky to have made the choice I made. It's worked out well for me so far, it seems.
It's just going to be something you do until you no longer exist.
Even then, I'll just lay the thing on me. I'll lay here.
Yeah, I'll play through eternity, right? I hear you, man. Do
Right
what
on.
you love, man. Do what you love.
Exactly.
And there's people out there that they don't get the encouragement that they need to move forward and to try something in life. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I always say being bored is on you. If you're bored, That's on you, man. There's so much fascinating shit everywhere. Unbelievable. I mean, when I was a kid, I was into geology, paleontology, chemistry, astronomy. I had my own little lab. I had telescopes, microscopes, into that. Then I got into baseball for a long time, and then I got into, just so many things, fascinating things in this world. If you're bored, it's on you. I mean, I can go out, just walk out in the woods, find some tree, and start to trim it down and work on, look for another box turtle, or build something, or just the idea of being bored is kind of foreign to me, I must say.
I heard that. You have to make that decision on your own, but the people get stuck in life where they're in a job that pays the bills, they got a family, and
you can find yourself in a situation where you're economically painted into a corner. Almost everyone does at some point, but get to work and figure it out and get ahead. And there's people that have no legs, or are blind, or crippled in some manner, and they're doing great. And they don't even have just physiologically what most all of us have, and they're excited and at it and doing great and thinking of things. And I often look at that. I remember seeing years ago, the Pope went to Mexico, and had some kid with no arms lay a guitar down and play with his feet. And I've seen that since then with several other people as well.
That's crazy.
And wow. So some guy, said, "Hey, I'm bored with my plan." I go, "Bro, you got two hands. You're way out of the game compared to somebody else." And the kid with no arms was excited to play, So it's a motivation, self-motivation, man.
Yeah.
That's a gift. I'm forever grateful to have been my own source of motivation. I don't know how that happened, but I'm supremely thankful for whatever stars were aligned for that.
Well, I know mental health, it can be a barrier, but I mean, I've lived with depression, anxiety, PTSD for most of my life, and anything that holds you back, it's you holding you back.
I agree very much.
There's no excuse. Okay. I have a disease that it eats the bone in my spine, and I started out having to use a cane, had to use a wheelchair after that. Got a disease. Excuse me. I got a surgery, and then I had another surgery. Then I had another surgery, and now I'm back to using the cane again. Now, if I have to go long distances, I have to use the wheelchair. I had to retire. I could easily be sitting on my couch, watching TV, fading away. I chose to find something that not only makes me happy, but helps other people, which is this show. And that's why I appreciate people like you, because you don't realize how much more encouragement you give me just being here. You know what I mean? And you're helping other folks out there, saying, hey, there's hope if you just want to go out there and do it.
And you got to have the strength of come on, get up. So sometimes I'll get up, I'll lay on the couch, this is comfortable. I got to get up. Come on, hit it. I don't feel like playing. Well, just run. Exercise up and down. All the way up, all the way down, all the way up, and all the way down. 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 times. Finally, my hands are in good shape. Hey, well, how about this? Sure enough, you come right out of it. You just gotta push yourself. Get up, get out the door, do something. It's very important. You gotta have a reason to get up in the morning, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I saw a post the other day where somebody was talking about being disabled and all that. And I'm like, you know what? It's a part of my life, but it does not define who I am. Okay. True. So what? I can't get out and do the things that I used to do. I can still do other things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, if I suddenly could not play anymore for whatever reason, man, there's a whole world of things for me to do.
I usually don't ask requests on my show, but can you give us a bit of Chameleon?
That's baritone. descend on a bass that's tuned with a low B instead of a low E. So that would be the open string, and it would be very low. So I have to do an octave up. That was that maybe it may have been Terry Bozzio on drums there. I know Steve played on the guitar. That was I think it was my first solo record. And I got to anybody that's considering getting, I got to warn you, I sing on it. So
hey, you're not that bad a singer. Come on now.
I can croak it out. Right on.
What usually inspires you to write? It's just something that comes over you, or there's a certain mood?
Again, sometimes I'm inspired. Sometimes I sit down with a page and go, I got to work. I got to come up with a song. Let's get to work. I got nothing. We sit down, we sit around with the band and go, what do you got? I got nothing. What do you got? I go, how about, okay, key of D, all right, drum beat. Pretty soon there's a song. And you have to look at that blank piece of paper and go, what about it? But I'm always writing down titles. Titles are important. Anything that sounds like a song title, I'll write it down, and the song may write itself after that. Who knows? But it's an onward. It's an unending quest.
I hear you. Well, before we go, is there like a maybe a cause or a charity that's closest to your heart?
Not particularly, but I'm going to auction all of my archives. I have archives of clothing, posters, records, all kinds of things. Huge archive. Most of it's been digitized. It's in print or audio. But all the clothes for the Eat 'Em and Smile tour, they were originally meant for a movie that was going to happen. I still have all those. I'm going to auction them all off. Probably initially the idea was for bulletproof vests for first responders, because initially a lot of guys had to buy their own. Yeah. Now they're being provided for. So something along those lines. I think I'd like to take care of first responders, because those are the guys who take care of us when we need it most. So I will probably do something along that line. Police, fire, emergency medical people, try to help them out, because that's a thankless gig, man. That's a tough gig. You're saving people's lives. So, there's a lot of great causes, but I pick that one, or whatever else comes along. I'm very I have a soft spot for animals and wildlife too. So we'll think of something. I gotta have somebody help me organize a giant eBay auction and put it all up, and hopefully it'll find good homes, and the money will help to bring some good to the world.
And what is your website?
I'm BillySheehan.com. Easy to find. I have 2 Facebook pages, my own personal and a band page. I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well. I'm a little bit on TikTok, but that's more. It's just a lot of craziness. I'm not sure what to do with it. But people can write to me, especially on Facebook Messenger. Find me. I respond to everything. I read everything myself. It's a gargantuan task, but I do it because people are kind enough to take the time to write to me. I try to respond, as you may well know.
Yes.
So that's how they can find me. And if I can answer any questions, I'm happy to.
Well, Billy, I thank you so much for being on my show. You have no idea what it means to me.
My pleasure, Kyle.
And I also want to thank all of you out there. If you are new to the show, you happen by, I appreciate that. And I hope you'll come back. Hit that subscribe button. For those of you who are regular, you know how much I love y'all. It's because of you that I get to do this. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network